here. It is round number 5 of Swiss, I think. I have no idea how the tournament's going. Try me, buddy. This is the fun that you can have when you come to our Psycho Turtle events. We'll have our next one on the 18th? Karen doesn't know. We don't know when the next one's gonna be. This one's going great already. We have round number 5 upcoming between Edward Gold and Anthony Plasencia. I don't know their records. I need this. Edward is running Ursaluna Bloodmoon, Dragonite, Indeedee Male, Whimsicott, Hisuian Typhlosion, and Sneasler. Anthony running Charizard, Ursaluna, Incineroar, Porygon 2, Torkoal, and Jumpluff. Anthony's going to lead the Charizard and the Incineroar. Very interesting. Usually don't want the Charizard out there without the Sun, but you do have the opportunity to just switch out the Incineroar immediately to try to get that Sun up. On the other end, it's the Indeedee and the Ursaluna. They're both 3-1, so that means that the winner is definitely going to make Top Cut. And the loser might make Top Cut. We'll see. But regardless, definitely locking that in would be big. And thankfully, we had the Switch 1 versus Switch 2 difference, so it took a minute to load. Yeah, I don't really know what the play is here for either side. Incineroar probably does just want to switch out, in which case it feels like a solid opportunity for Charizard to launch off something like a Heat Wave, or just try to get as much damage down as possible. And yeah, there's the Incineroar switch out there from Anthony. And is the Torkoal coming in, so we will see the Solar Power active now on the Charizard, with the Sun coming up. And we're going to see the Terra out of Edward. Dang. Yeah, that's Edward's Terra on the Indeedee. I like that, honestly. Go for the Terra Psychic on the Indeedee. Try to get as much damage down, although you are Sash. You're actually not Scarf. And the Ursaluna goes for the Protect. So it comes down to which one of these two is faster here. I would imagine it's the Charizard. Yeah, it's the Charizard there. We'll see if the Heat Wave lands onto the Indeedee. Ursaluna protected, and yeah, it does land. So Indeedee will get dropped down to the Sash. But we'll see what it can do the other direction with the Terra Blast, actually, not the Expanding Force. Terra Blast directly into the Charizard, and it's not going to pick up the KO. Barely, not enough, but the Solar Power does do it. I did not think the Solar Power would be enough, but just barely gets the Charizard out of there, and that is a lot of Anthony's damage that is now missing. Incineroar comes back in, can't fake out in the terrain, but does have some attacking moves to try to hit here. Problem is now just the speed. You do have to worry about either Indeedee getting a big amount of damage down onto the Torkoal, potentially, or even just the Ursaluna being able to move ahead of the Torkoal. And I don't know if this is a fast bear or a slow bear. I think a fast bear can outspeed some Incineroars, although I don't know how often that is the case. So it might be a question of what the Incineroar wants to do here first, because the Indeedee will switch out into the Sneasler, will activate the Psychic Seed, get that Unburden boost. And it's doing that while Incineroar is still on the field. Torkoal goes for the Protect. What did the bear go for? Ooh, it's the Parting Shot into the Ursaluna, actually, which is really nice for Anthony, because now you're able to bring in the Intimidate later. Although you are in an awkward spot, because you're going to have to bring in the Porygon 2 here. And that leaves that slot relatively open to be hit by the Close Combat from the Sneasler, but one thing at a time, and Edwards certainly didn't make any progress there. I don't know if Anthony has any way to get anywhere now, but it's certainly at least a little bit better than it was a turn ago, where you have Porygon 2 on the field now, and Incineroar can come back in later. Question is what Torkoal can do here. It is not Specs, by the way, it is a Jetpack. Incineroar comes back in, we'll get the Intimidate down once again. See if we get a Terra out of Anthony's side here. Yes, we are going to see the Terra on the Porygon 2. I like that I picked up on that. That's the commentator difference right there. It's going to be the Terra fighting for the Porygon 2. You can imagine it's going to go for that Terra Blast, potentially into the Ursaluna here. It's going to be the close combat into the Porygon 2. It really eats that now that there's the Terra fighting. And, ooh, it is the Earth Power into the Incineroar. Does not pick up the KO. Incineroar will chomp, chomp, chomp on the Citrus Berry. Gets back into the yellow HP. And, ooh, Porygon 2 went for the Trick Room. That is real nice for Anthony, being able to have that up now. Sneasler not going to really benefit from that whole being really fast with Unburdened thing. Although also it's easy enough to switch Sneasler out at this point, as it is faster than everything remaining on the field, so the Unburden doesn't really matter. Gonna see the Ursaluna switch out now. And the Indeedee will come in for Edward, trying to stall out turns of the Trick Room, more likely than not. And Porygon 2 will land the Terra Blast into Indeedee. It only needs to do 1 HP of damage, and it certainly will. It takes out the Terra on the other side. And now the Pokemon are even. HP is not, but Anthony's clawing his way back in here. A Flare Blitz that was landed, that was aimed into the Sneasler slot there. Now the question, what do you want to do with this slot here? It's going to be the Ursaluna. That bear does have Protect as an option. Sneasler does not after just using it. Well, it does have the double Protect, of course, but not going to be able to just click it here. And is it -1 as well, and no Sash or anything, so Incineroar might just be able to KO that Ursaluna right now, or not the Ursaluna, because the Ursaluna is protected, but the Sneasler right now. Porygon 2 did go for the Terra Blast into that slot of the Ursaluna that was the Protect, and now Incineroar gets to go. There's the Flare Blitz, and it is enough to KO the Sneasler at -1. And now it is just 2 Pokemon remaining for Edward. Incineroar is very low HP. And Sun is now gone. The Psychic Terrain is now gone as well. Torkoal can switch back in to get that Sun back up. The big issue here is that Dragonite. Although the Dragonite's not threatening a ton of damage. It does have the Stomping Tantrum you can actually see, which is a little unusual, but Dragon and ground coverage is really nice. And sometimes you don't need the Tailwind, which is what must have been dropped here. Question here, does... Ooh, Ursaluna actually moves first ahead of the Porygon 2. So it will take out the Incineroar with the Hyper Voice. Porygon 2 moves next with the Terra Blast into the Ursaluna slot. This has to KO, I think, for Anthony to feel good about this. And yeah, it does pick up the KO. So that is big for Anthony. Now, does this KO from the Dragonite? Because that'll matter quite a bit. Stomping Tantrum does not KO. Doesn't even get that close to KOing. I wonder if the Scale Shot could have done it. But we are not going to find out now. I believe this is the last turn of Trick Room, but all Anthony really needs is 1 turn of Trick Room to get the Recover up on the Porygon 2. Yeah, Dragonite will Protect here, which stalls out the last turn of Trick Room, but it is Torkoal Eruption. This is honestly just to break the multi-scale, and yeah, the Porygon 2 goes for the Recover. I like that play for Anthony quite a bit, because you've already kind of proven that this Dragonite doesn't really threaten your Porygon 2 at all. And now, what do you do if you are Edward here? There's a Scale Shot, and it misses. That is certainly not going to help. you lose out on a bit of information as us, the viewer, and that's a lot of damage through multi-scale, and Porygon 2 gets the Trick Room up again. Not particularly necessary, I think the Ice Beam could have done it there, but we'll see it next turn, I suppose. And it would have been nice to get the information of what Scale Shot did to Porygon 2. I'm sure both these players are basically sure of that, but I sure don't, so I would have liked that. But regardless, I think Anthony's just going to clean this one up with one Ice Beam. Eventually. There's the Eruption. We'll see how much this Eruption does, actually. That's a lot of damage to a resist. And the Ice Beam will pick up the rest of the HP. And Anthony will take game number 1. Did not bring the Ursaluna or the Jumpluff. Got the Charizard taken out turn 1, doing not a whole lot, although it did... The big thing the Charizard accomplished is that it took out most of the HP from Indeedee. It brought it down to Sash, which ended up being the Terra on Edward's side, which then meant that the Ursaluna and the Dragonite and the Sneasler had no opportunity to Terra later, which potentially could have gotten somewhere. So we'll see if either of them wants to switch anything up. It's the Whimsicott and the Typhlosion that did not come last time for Edward. And it was interesting last time because both of them had kind of leads that were not exactly what you would imagine out of a team like this. It was the Indeedee Ursaluna last time for Edward rather than the Indeedee Sneasler. It was the Incineroar Charizard rather than the Torkoal Charizard. We'll see if either of them wants to get a little bit more conventional in game number 2. A reminder, this is round number 5 of Swiss, final round of Swiss. The winner of this goes to 4-1, and will certainly make Top Cut. The loser might make Top Cut. They'll be 3-2. I have not looked at how many 4-1s and 5-0s there will be, so we will find out. Both the players still making their choices here. It's like Edward getting close to locking in here. Darn, still really considering this last Pokemon, and does make a bit of a change there. We'll see how much that ends up mattering. Game number 2 is the Porygon 2 and the Incineroar this time against the Indeedee and the Ursaluna. So, the thing about the Porygon 2 Incineroar lead is that you then have the opportunity to set Trick Room immediately. The problem is that you don't actually have the Fake Out pressure now because the Indeedee is here. So I wonder what Anthony wants to do out of this spot. You do get the special attack boost from the Ursaluna from the download, which is pretty good for Porygon 2, obviously. But what is the play? Especially because the Indeedee here has the Imprison and the Trick Room, and so can go for the Imprison to stop Porygon 2 from getting Trick Room up. But at the same time, there's certainly, yeah, there's the Imprison. We'll see if Anthony calls this out, because if he does, there's a lot of advantage to take. There's the knockoff into the Indeedee, brings it down to 1 HP. Porygon 2, is it going for an attack? Is it going for... Oh, it stealed the Terra Blast! Oh man, that is really, really nice there for Edward. I did not even realize it had both the Trick Room and the Terra Blast that were able to be imprisoned. And Anthony went for the aggressive play, but did not end up working out for him. And we'll go into the Ursaluna now. We didn't see that last game. Does have the opportunity to Earthquake. Although, currently does not have Guts active. Although at the same time, Porygon 2, very bulky, not being threatened a ton right now. Ursaline is going to protect. Let's see, we've got to imagine, yeah, there's the Expanding Force. Expanding Force plus Blood Moon is a lot of damage, though. And I'm curious how much it will do to Porygon 2. Not Terra yet. Oh, a critical hit onto Porygon 2. That's really tough. Does get the Ice Beam down onto the Indeedee, so the Indeedee is out of here. Porygon 2 is now able to Trick Room and Terra Blast again, but that is if it does not drop to Blood Moon right now, which it just might. Yeah, it's going to drop to Blood Moon. Curious if it did without the crit, but either way, that is one Pokemon taken down on Edward's side, 2 down for Anthony's. And we'll see what this last Pokemon is for Anthony's side. You'd imagine it's probably going to be the Torkoal. Sneasler comes out for Edward. And it is Torkoal, the Twinkling Star, as the last Pokemon on Anthony's side. At this point, it feels kind of choreographed, kind of telegraphed, that Anthony's going to want to Terra the Ursaluna right here to try to avoid all those negative outcomes that could come from staying, mostly just getting hit by close combat. Question is whether Edward reads that and what Edward wants to do about it. Torkoal is a really interesting set that doesn't have a ton of options for kind of sticking around long term, particularly being slower. There is the Terra onto the Ursaluna, as mentioned. And it might end up being kind of a problem, actually. But that'll be down the line. We're gonna see the Helping Hand actually coming out of the Torkoal. That's the one. That's the one big thing there, and we'll see no status out of the Dire Claw. Ursaluna picks up the other Ursaluna, and that's not a bad turn for Anthony. It's now down to 2 Pokemon for both players, and Typhlosion will hit the field now. Question now is it basically comes down to a Protect Read. So I believe Anthony's Ursaluna will pick up the KO here with a Earthquake onto everything. And we're just going to see Typhlosion go for the Terrafire. I might just go for Terrafire, Specs Eruption, and just say, actually, I'm in the sun. I'm Terrafire, Specs Eruption. I'm just going to KO this bear right now. Gonna see the Helping Hand onto the bear. Sneasler goes for the Throat Chop into the Ursaluna. That's a good extra layer of damage. And the Eruption should probably clean up the Ursaluna. If it does, then that'll definitely be the game for Edward. Yep, sure does. And picks up the Torkoal as well. And that means we're heading to game number 3. Very nicely done there by Edward. Although you wonder about Anthony's side of things leading the kind of weird Porygon 2 Incineroar lead and then kind of realizing, oh, I just get imprisoned here if Edward does the same thing. And so we'll see if Edward actually wants to do the same thing for the 3rd game in a row, or at least the same lead for the 3rd game in a row. Bringing the Typhlosion was definitely pretty valuable there. Yeah, that Indeedee's very valuable into so much of this team. It blocks the Incineroar really nicely, it blocks the Porygon 2 really nicely, it prevents Charizard from getting too much up with that Focus Sash. There's so much the Indeedee does, but how do you manage keeping it around and getting all the value that you can out of it against what Anthony might bring here? And that Ursaluna and Blood Moon has been very valuable for Edward so far. Has spent a lot of time on the field and has gotten some pretty good attacks down, some pretty good Earth Power, some pretty good Blood Moons. But it's looking like it's going to get benched here. We'll see. Game number 3. It's basically a win and in for Top Cut. We'll see if the loser also makes it, but certainly the winner will at 4-1. and once they're done communicating, we will get underway. One final game here for round number 5. One final game here for Swiss. Anthony's lead is going to be the Porygon 2 and the Jumpluff. Bringing that in for the first time. And then it's the Indeedee Dragonite on Edward's side. So a couple of changes here. There's the Jumpluff, which has a lot of supportive options. The Porygon 2, which obviously has that Trick Room as the primary thing it wants to do. You would imagine if the Jumpluff's here, ooh, it is the attack increase for Porygon 2, which is not necessarily what it usually wants there. You would imagine that the Jumpluff being here implies the Torkoal is in the back. And it's actually the fastest thing on the field. Gets the Sleep Powder down on the Indeedee before it's able to move. Does that mean that the Porygon 2 is going to be able to get the Trick Room up here? Because that could really change things. There's the Scale Shot into the Jumpluff. That does way less damage than I thought it would, actually. There's number 2. There's number 3. It's going to need all 5 and probably needs the 5th one to crit. Nope, just 4. Not going to be enough. Will boost Dragonite's speed. And Porygon 2 gets the Trick Room down. And that puts Anthony in a real nice spot here. Dragonite will protect, trying to stall out some of this Trick Room and trying to... trying to give an opportunity for the Indeedee to re-Trick Room. Jumpluff going for the Sleep Powder into the Dragonite slot, so the double up into that slot, if Indeedee wakes up here and gets the Trick Room down, it does! It wakes up and it gets the Trick Room. The 1-turn sleep, the 1 in 3 shot for Edward, ends up paying off. This does mean that Edward can, or excuse me, that Anthony can go over the same play as turn number 1. With the Sleep Powder, although actually no, you can't, because now the Dragonite is faster because of the Scale Shot. So now it's the fastest thing on the field. It will get intimidated now with the Incineroar switching in. But Porygon 2 probably has to stay aggressive with the Ice Beam here. It's Scale Shot and it misses into the Incineroar. That would have been a pretty big deal if had stayed in. There's the Imprison. Trick Room is now blocked. Ice Beam does go into the Dragonite. Does it? Wow, that's a lot of damage through multi-scale. But still nowhere near enough to KO. With the Incineroar and the Porygon 2 on the field now, the big thing for Edward is now you actually don't really... You're not threatening damage. And while Anthony's threatening certainly enough damage. The Stomping Tantrum at -1, that's a lot of damage into Incineroar. We'll chomp down on the Citrus. Indeedee goes for the Expanding Force. It'll be just hitting the Porygon 2. And it's a little chunk there. Incineroar lands the knockoff into Indeedee, brings it down to 1 HP. And does Anthony consider... Which one of these two does Anthony consider a bigger priority? It's going to be the Indeedee. Yeah, I was going to say, it probably just is going to be a double up into the Indeedee. Pick it off with the Ice Beam. Because now we have unlocked Porygon 2 once again. Terra Blast and Trick Room back on the field. Sneasler comes in now, is going to get that special defense boost with the Psychic Seed. Remember, in game number 1, we saw Incineroar get the KO with the Flare Blitz while Sneasler was at -1. Also see, because there's still the Jumpluff in the back, we're going to see no switches. We get the Terra out of Anthony. I believe that's going to be the Porygon 2 to prevent it from being weak to the close combat. We saw it take close combat really comfortably in game number 1. It's a pretty good game state for Anthony with how many similar points. Hold for Dire Claw status, it is just poison. That is probably best case scenario for Anthony. And the Stomping Tantrum doesn't KO the Incineroar. So the Flare Blitz will bring Sneasler down to very low HP. It'll knock out the Incineroar, I think. Yeah, it sure does. that means you do get a free switch now. And Porygon 2 goes for the Ice Beam and doubles up into the Sneasler. Picks off the Sneasler, and that one's down as well. And that brings Edward down to his final 2 Pokemon here. The Psychic Terrain is gone, although I think now it doesn't matter because the Incineroar is out of here as well. It's Typhlosion coming back on the field now. Terra still available for Edward, but the Jumpluff is back here as well. This is going to be a little bit awkward. So I think there's no reason why Typhlosion can't just kind of eruption through this, assuming that Dragonite is able to hit a Scale Shot into the Jumpluff. Because otherwise, yeah, it lands into the Jumpluff, it will be able to do enough hits to KO, and that means that Typhlosion will get a single target eruption here. Dragonite's defense drops once again. And there's the eruption. And it picks off the Porygon 2 as well, so now just the final Pokemon remaining for Anthony. I believe it is going to be that Ursaluna. No Incineroar left on the field. 2 knockouts that turn for Edward. It's a 2-on-1. We'll see if Ursaluna is able to pick up the victory here. Really no reason not to just hard launch. Best moves into it, and Anthony is just going to call it, says that is it for the eruption damage. And Edward Gold picks up the round 5 victory. We'll be heading to Top Cut. A very well-played set there. Ending up bringing the Typhlosion in those last 2 games really did matter. I was going to look over here like I was going to talk to Pikachu. That is Pikachu, in fact. But in any case, congratulations to Edward, and at this point we are going to tabulate the results of our Swiss stage, and we will be back with the quarterfinal round of Top Cut. Don't go anywhere.